Pro bodybuilders and pro musicians are more similar than you realize. They both got really good at training. If you want to level up as a musician and improve your skills and ultimately win the game of music, you have to know how to train effectively to get the results that you're looking for. A lot of us noodle around and try to figure out how to get good without knowing what actually leads to the results that we're looking for in our playing. I know this from personal experience because this was me for literally like 6 years trying to figure out jazz piano. And so I've come up with a way of thinking about and approaching your music practice that I honestly think is so powerful that just scripting this video has got me so excited and stoked about practicing the piano again. And so if you're feeling stuck or stale with your music practice and you don't really know how to break through to the next level, this is going to be the idea that might actually lead you to that breakthrough, and I hope it is, honestly. Now, the idea itself is really simple. What if we approached our music practice like a bro getting jacked at the gym? What does it mean to get musically jacked? Now, this is actually a new idea for me. I think it's such a powerful analogy, but I'm still trying to figure out how to articulate it and communicate it. So I'd honestly love your input in the comments. Like, if you have any ideas in regards to this topic, please do share them in the comments below. Let's start with level 1, which I would say is just getting into shape, right? You might not want to get musically jacked, but getting into musical shape is a really great starting place. And honestly, you could just maintain your musical fitness and you'd be in such a great place as a musician. Now, what is musical fitness? That's literally a term I just came up with, okay? Let's start by taking a look at the definition of the word fitness. The first definition is the condition of being physically fit and healthy, and the second definition is the quality of being suitable to fulfill a particular role or task. So I'd say that the second definition absolutely applies to music, right? You want to be that session player who's called up for that really big show and that really big artist. You want to be that guy who gets the really high paid wedding gigs. You want to be suitable for a particular role and you want to be ready for that role. So that's kind of how I would think about musical fitness. It's all about actually being prepared and ready to fulfill a role in the game of music, and it could be a really high level role. For example, if you get called up for a gig tomorrow, are you ready to play that gig? Do you have the musical fitness to literally stand on stage and give a performance to 500 people? What does musical fitness actually mean though? What are the two main components of physical fitness? I would say that they are probably exercise and diet, right? So if we just apply that to music real quick, I would say that we want to be exercising our musical skills regularly, and we want to be consuming a healthy and balanced musical diet. Now, I've come up with 4 key elements of musical exercise to maintain our musical fitness. The first key element is ensuring that you're actually practicing the basics of your instrument or your craft. A lot of playing an instrument is very physical. This is what I've found with playing the piano. I feel like a lot of it is in the fingers and in the hands, and you need to train these regularly. This is what I've found. I'm not really referring to this high level technique or anything. I'm more referring to just the fundamental technique. On the piano, that would be finger dexterity. You know, practicing like finger exercises and scales. The second key element is what I would call the lifestyle approach. So actually practicing and training your instrument as a part of your life, as a part of who you are, your identity. When I started running, I became addicted to running, and now I can't go a day or 2 days without running. And the same thing happened with my piano practice. When I made it a part of my daily life, it's almost like I can't go without it now. I need to get my piano training in, even if it's just 20 minutes at the piano running some scales. The third element is ear training. You need to have your ear in a really good place. This is going to get you through so many different scenarios as a musician, right? The ear applies to literally everything. If you have a good ear, you're going to definitely perform well in whatever context you find yourself in, because you're going to be more tuned in to the music that you're playing. And then the fourth element would be your standard repertoire or material. You have repertoire that you need to be able to execute. That needs to be locked down, right? Are you musically fit with your repertoire? One of my most epic fails on stage was when my singer called a tune that we wrote a couple of years back, and I hadn't practiced it at all, but suddenly she called it on stage and we were playing it on stage. And so I started playing it, but I hadn't rehearsed it. I hadn't practiced it. It wasn't in my fingers. And so I literally messed up this tune. I just lost it midway through, and it was so embarrassing, honestly. So that's exercising to maintain your musical fitness. And then we have diet. So having a really good and balanced musical diet. Let me list off some really important things here. Listen to a lot of music. Seek out new music. Don't limit yourself with the music that you listen to. Be careful not to listen to garbage. And lastly, fully embrace your unique and quirky musical tastes. I'd also include in this category like podcasts from, successful artists and musicians. Content as well. What content are you consuming? What music YouTubers are you watching? Is it like Adam Neely? Is it Nari Soul? Is it Charles Cornell? Like, who are you actually watching on YouTube for your kind of musical education and entertainment? I think that's quite important too. That would definitely be a part of your musical diet, I'd say. Okay, now that we've covered musical fitness, we can finally talk about the reason why you're actually here, which is getting musically jacked. Quick disclaimer, I am not physically jacked myself, okay? Look, I'm a fairly small guy. I'm not like a gym junkie or anything. I've never got jacked myself. I run more of a running and rock climbing build. That's kind of the exercise I do. So if you have a lot of bodybuilding experience and you're actually physically jacked, please comment below. Where am I going wrong? Make corrections. I literally don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about it in relation to music. So from what I've gathered, there are 5 key components of getting physically jacked: muscle growth, cutting body fat, strength and power, a high protein diet, and recovery and rest. Now let's go through each of these components and talk about how they apply to music. Let's start with muscle growth. You can see a jack dude and you can say that guy's put in a lot of work. It's the same with an instrumentalist who is ripping it up on their instrument. You can tell, like, damn, how many hours did that guy put into the piano to play like that? So the first thing is actually committing to a higher level of musical training and practice. The guy who got jacked didn't get jacked by just sitting around and not doing anything. He had to commit to going to the gym on a consistent basis and training way harder than he was so that he could get the body that he wanted. Likewise, if you want to get musically jacked, if you want to have epic, legendary musical skills, you have to commit to a higher level of training and practice on your instrument. Now, I'd say for bro to get jacked, he would probably have a training program that he was following really strictly, and he would have exercises on that training program. Again, if you are a bodybuilder, please tell me below if this is true or not. But you would have certain exercises that you would go to the gym to train. If you've nailed down exactly the exercises you need to practice to get exactly the results that you want to get in your playing, and you commit to doing that for 6 months, dude, you're gonna get good at music. You're gonna get so good at your instrument that way, right? You just have to get the reps in. The next element of muscle growth would be having chops on our instrument. We want to have the ability to shred and show off some epic skills on the instrument. However, the guy who is ripped isn't walking around the supermarket and around town with his shirt off. He's concealing that epic body that he's built in the gym through hours of training. So it's the same with music. You don't want to show off all of your chops at all times. You want to kind of conceal them and pull them out when necessary, right? That way they're actually going to be more epic, right? In those epic moments when you pull them out. And the third element of muscle growth is not skipping leg day. What is the musical equivalent of the legs? I'd honestly say that it's probably the basics. Like, for example, on the piano, it's like triads and arpeggios and finger dexterity. The reason why I emphasize the basics, and I honestly think the basics are the most important thing, is because those high level skills, they all stand upon a foundation of your basics. If your basics are really weak and you're trying to play all of these fancy chop stuff, you're not going to execute them well. Another one of the basics will be tempo, right? Having a really good sense of tempo. Okay, the second component of getting physically jacked is low body fat. How does low body fat apply to music? The first element I would say is actually just playing less notes. This is such a hack right here. I learned this in music school. Just play less notes and you're gonna sound better. Now, why is that the case? You're being more intentional with the notes that you play, and the notes that you play are actually going to stand out if you allow more space. A really great example of this is Miles Davis. Literally the perfect example. Every note he plays is so intentional. It's exactly placed where it needs to be, and he's not adding any notes that don't need to be in the performance or the composition. The second element of musical low body fat, I would say, is groove and pocket. You want to have a sense of groove and pocket in your playing, right? Just being airtight in that groove, like especially if you're a drummer, right? Now, low body fat percentage actually allows your muscles to kind of stand out and pop. Now, in a musical sense, if you don't have a really good sense of rhythm and pocket and groove in your playing, it almost makes the rest of your music a little bit clouded, right? A little bit messier. Whereas if you have a really locked in sense of rhythm and groove and tempo, then what you play is going to be really locked in, it's going to be really dialed in, and it's going to actually pop. The third component of getting physically jacked would be strength and power. A jacked dude might look aesthetically amazing, and that might be what he's actually training for, aesthetics. But can he actually use those muscles in a practical setting? Like, can he help his grandma, take her couches down the stairs or whatever? You want to have the strength and the power to actually use those muscles, to use the skills that you've been training for as a musician. So I'd say the first element of musical strength and power would be the ability to actually play some solid notes, having a sense of solidity in your playing, and being able to nail the basics. I play with a drummer named Gus, and this guy's playing is so solid. When he's on stage, he's playing only what is necessary for the song and really projecting a very powerful sound on the drums. And I think this is so important. It's so good to be on stage with him because you just feel tied down, you feel locked into that performance. That's strength and power right there, playing only what is necessary and projecting a really powerful sound. The fourth component of getting physically jacked is a high protein diet. How does this apply to music? Well, the first element would be curating your musical diet. You need to ensure that you're listening to enough music in the style that you're actually learning and trying to play and master. We need to be listening to the music that we want to sound like, okay? And we need to absorb that into our ears. And then the second key element of this would be transcribing and integrating. So you don't want to just listen to that music, you want to consume it and you want to digest it. These bodybuilders are eating, chicken and broccoli so that they can provide their body with the nutrients that their muscles need to expand and grow. In a musical context, that would be, taking these songs and these tunes that you're listening to and actually, extracting the nutrients from them and applying it to your music, integrating it into your music and into your playing. And then the fifth and final component of getting physically jacked is rest and recovery. How does this apply to music? I think this is actually very important. The first key element would be balancing training with having fun on the instrument. If music becomes the stale, boring thing that you have to show up to and train for, then that's a disaster. You're going to suck the life and soul of music out of you and out of your instrument. We don't want that to happen, okay? So absolutely balance your training with just having fun and jamming and improvising on the instrument and just like composing music and just not sitting at the instrument to achieve anything, not optimizing yourself at the instrument, just like sitting there and being like, oh, I love this instrument, let me play today, I love this. And then the second element of musical rest and recovery would be relaxing and seeking inspiration. I'd say that you need to relax sometimes and allow space for what you've been practicing to actually kind of sink into your mind and ears and into your fingers. Life is bigger than music. There are so many other things you can do. Go on adventures, go hiking in the bush, go into nature more, go to the beach, hang out with friends, go rock climbing, go swimming, explore some place in your country, go traveling, book an Airbnb, do some writing, read a book. There are so many things you can do that's not music. And guess what? If you do more of that stuff, you're going to come to the instrument inspired and you're going to have new ideas to explore. Okay, that's everything for this video. This is such an interesting topic for me to talk about, by the way, and I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. What do you think about this idea? Okay, definitely leave your thoughts in the comments. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Good luck, have fun, vibe and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!